Hello, welcome back to Nuzlocke Vlogs, where I talk about my life and do Pokemon Nuzlockes. And do you know what day it is? It's Jesus Got Murdered Day, or as the Christians call it, Good Friday. That's a fun name. Like, imagine you're just like this nice guy, and then you get brutally tortured to death. And then you come back a few years later, and what the fuck? What? Why do all these people just have big displays like celebrating the method of my death, and they call it Good Friday? I don't think that was a good day. That day sucked. It was painful. I did not enjoy being crucified, says Jesus. Like, like I fucking cried, man. It sucked. My mom was there. And also, the other thing is I realized it this year. The whole Christian, like, he died and he rose 3 days later. No, he didn't. That's rounding. He died and rose 2.5 days. Like 3 days. How does die Friday back to life? That's less than 72 hours because it's Sunday according to tradition. I don't know what's actually written in the Bible, but yeah. I had a very religious childhood, and I am not religious. My mother is a preacher, and I am, yeah, I don't, well, I do that, deal with all that stuff and go to her Good Friday service and stuff because I care about my mother, and that is the primary reason. Last night, cause with my journalism job, I had to cover a living Last Supper play that my father was in, playing Simon the Zealot, who is, one of the disciples. There's 12 of them, and they weren't all winners. Like, Peter's cool, Judas is plot relevant, Thomas gets the cool nickname. What the fuck was James the Lesser's deal? Like he's not even the main James. He's the inferior James. Like, ooh, all this hard hitting Bible comedy. I'm sure it's going over great with the audience as I'm just dealing with the endless waves of weak water Pokemon. And I didn't have to worry about a psychic from that Starmie because Starmie doesn't get psychic for a really long time. Which I know because I'm planning to use a Starmie in this run, maybe. I haven't decided between that and Gyarados, but I'm keeping Gyarados because it's high level. But anyway, that Living Last Supper, it's like each of the disciples goes up and they give a monologue about wondering who's going to betray. And I've seen a few of these types of plays over the years, and I didn't like a choice in this one compared to a choice I'd seen in other versions of the same play in the portrayal of Judas. In ones I've seen in the past, it was like a really interesting, really, uh, I thought, good writing decision. They made Judas like remorseful and like just feeling terrible and crying as he confessed. And in this, it's like, I betrayed Jesus because I'm evil. And like, that's less interesting, less well written, and also kind of like not accurate. I'm pretty sure, I don't know. Doesn't Judas like fucking hang himself out of shame? And because Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which is what I use for the bottom screen sprites, didn't have shiny Pokemon, my Gyarados thing is inaccurate on the bottom. That's a shame. I don't know. It's the boringest. It is genuinely the worst play I've ever been to. It is the Christian rock of plays what I went to last night. In that it's bad, but people like it because they say the word Jesus. And this is mean, but I genuinely think if you just wrote the word Jesus on a wall, my mother would call it the greatest painting ever made. It was such dull because it's just long, drawn out monologues by not that interesting and especially not that well acted characters that they all say pretty much the same exact thing. It was just not a good show. I'm gonna go back for because you can't get all the trainers in one route. I'm gonna go back for those two trainers. Actually, I should deposit my Storm U so I can get a Shuckle. Maybe that'll be my sixth team slot. But yeah, it was a bad play. The other thing I had to do this week is had to report on a high school visit of Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley, who I think is just the best senator. I'm proud to have him as my elected representative. Like last year when he did his yearly visit, he does a yearly visit to all 99 counties. Like that's the big thing that Iowa government people do. He I asked him directly about the fact that he, like just before that, like a month before that, had voted against legalizing gay marriage because that had been put in place by the Supreme Court, and well, no one trusted the fucking Supreme Court because they had just overturned Roe versus Wade, and he just treated me like a fucking moron and just pissed me off so much. It's, well, I vote that because it's unnecessary because the Supreme Court legalized gay marriage. Yeah, but people said the same thing about abortion. Well, there's no inclination the Supreme Court is going to overturn gay marriage. But Clarence Thomas a few days ago said, "Yeah, I want to do that." Well, the Supreme Court trusts settled law. Did you forget about Roe versus Wade? Well, I've answered your question. I don't know because he's been in politics for 110 years. He's the oldest fucking senator. He's not going to like tell me the fucking truth. So what's the even point of asking? He's not gonna say, "Oh yeah, I voted this because I fucking hate gay people because I'm an old piece of shit who is a stain on the people of Iowa. Like I am just. You should be ashamed to have me." No, he's not gonna fucking say that. He's gonna do fucking boring ass politician speak, and this time it's just a lot of the same bullshit. I got a second too because media availability. I RSVP'd. They allow a few questions from the media because that's secure. That ensures the media will show up and like report. He's going to our schools. He cares about Iowans unless they're gay. Then he fucking hates them. Then he hates them with every fucking fiber of his being because he's a piece of shit. So, but don't worry. There's probably not any gay people at this small rural school, and if they are, they'll get fucking beat to shit out of them by their classmates. Hey, speaking of, at least it's not fucking Oklahoma. Hear how in Oklahoma a fucking non-binary teenager was beaten to death by his classmate. I think Next Benedict, what I've read, went by he, him, was beaten to death by his classmates, and then the state attorney general says, yeah, we're not gonna fucking prosecute this because we fucking like when transgender children are murdered. We love this shit. Like, at least that's not in Iowa, although that could absolutely happen in Iowa pretty much any time. I'm off topic. But, so ask him, there's only one fucking thing you can ask about. Like, there's only one thing that came to mind to ask him, and that is about the fucking Gazan genocide. But because I'm on the clock, because I'm representing a newspaper, I'm trying to be a non-biased reporter, I don't say genocide. I don't ask, hey, why are you funding a fucking genocide? Because he had just voted to, hey, slash fucking funding for the for UNRWA, for the people giving relief to the starving masses. 100% food insecurity. That is what the United States government is saying, that these people are fucking starving to death, and you took away the fucking food aid, you fucking monster? What the fuck is wrong with... See, that's what I want to say, but I say, what is your opinion on Gaza, United States Secretary of State, yada yada. Also, just last night, the United Nations Security Council voting to demand a ceasefire with the United States notably abstaining. What's your thought on all that? Never fucking mentions the famine, never mentions the UN, just says, well, Hamas started this. Actually, no, not Hamas. He says, well, the Gazans started this, and now they're dealing with the consequences. Really, the enemy is Hamas. It's good. This war is good for the people of Gaza because we're fucking murdering them. God, it's fucking sickening. Bullshit. And so I ask him point blank, what level of civilian casualties do you think is acceptable? And he says, oh well, every civilian casualty is terrible. I don't think any of them are acceptable. And also, we need to accept more than 30,000 casualties because stop the terrorism. And I think this is what has occurred to me, how we should view politics. We should view there. I'm looking up because I'm not getting anything. I'm double checking. There's actually an encounter on this route. I think the way politics is set up is to determine what. Oh, Cursula is not at night. That's why. Who is allowed to be evil? Because Hamas is fucking monstrous. Like, I'm not gonna simp for Hamas. I think, yeah, that's terrible. They're killing civilians. I don't approve of killing civilians, but of course, the idea that that is uniquely evil, but a far, far more, excuse me, major killing of civilians, like 30 times as many by Israel, is completely fine and acceptable. It's because, as far as the United States government is concerned, the people of Palestine are not allowed to be evil. The people of Israel are. And it's not just fucking Israel. Like, hundreds of thousands of civilian casualties during the Iraq War, during the Afghanistan War, during the Vietnam War, like the United States, during Korea, like mass civilian casualties. That's the United States military's favorite pastime. But no one would ever say that that justified killing 10,000 American children. Even as the United States military murders more people than Hamas or ISIS or Al Qaeda or the Taliban or the Viet Cong or Kim Jong, or actually it would have been Kim Son, not Kim Jong, could ever dream of. No one would ever say that justifies murdering American children because they're white and they're American. Like, but of course, if you, 800 civilian casualties at the hands of Hamas, that justifies killing every single child in Gaza because they are not allowed to be evil. Palestinians are not allowed to be evil. Americans are. Israelis are. Fucking countries. Anyone is allowed to be evil if they're allied with the United States. Like, fucking. Like, the United States has historically allied with mass murdering fascists. Like, actually, a common refrain during all this has been that the October 7th attacks were the greatest mass slaughtering of Jewish people since the Holocaust, and that is fundamentally not true. Uh, the the Dirty War down in Argentina killed more Jewish people, like mass killings of Jewish people by a government propped up and supported by the American government and also the Israeli government. Like, there was mass killing, but they were allowed to be evil. Okay, the Argentinian fascists were allowed to be evil and carry out mass killings of Jewish people because they were allied with the United States and because they were capitalists and because it was the Cold War. See, no one can. So I don't fucking give a shit about condemnations about Hamas or the brutality of their crimes because that could never justify the killing of 10,000 children unless you would already come to. Why am I getting so many fucking crabby? Unless you would already come to the conclusion that Palestinian lives just, they weren't valuable in the first place. Which, of course, if we're talking practically about strategy, like, nothing that Israel is doing right now is smart tactically. Like, there was a tweet that went viral that is honestly smarter than anything that dumb fuck Grassley has ever said. Like, someone saying, if the United States government murdered my family to kill Hamas, the first thing I would do is start Hamas too. And I agree. I would do the same. If if my family was killed by the United States government, I'm not going to do this. Cops listening, because like that hasn't happened. But if it did, absolutely, in a heartbeat. So we're killing thousands of people's children. Surely that will bring safety to the area. No, it won't. But of course, that's good because that allows for more terrorism to happen in the past, which allows justifying military budgets and allows justifying occupation and taking territory and all the things they wanted all wrong. Like, you breed terror, you murder children because it creates terrorism, which then will justify you murdering children in the past, which will cause more terrorism, and you do it on and on until you get what you actually fucking want, which is a goddamn empire. Isn't it just so fucking awesome? Sorry. And so tonight is Good Friday, so I went to my mother's church, which is filled to the fucking brim with these old fucking Republicans, and my parents are politically, they aren't as bad as some of the people I've met, but yeah, there are Republicans fucking. No, actually, there is a guy who was at the Living Last Supper. I know him. I fucking hate this guy. He's like this far right clown. He was the Trump campaign president. Um, during the caucus. I don't know his fucking name, but just this guy. I got stuck next to him at a political rally once, and he just ranted the most rancid white supremacist shit I've ever said. Went on a tirade about how we need to invade the Middle East and go on a genocidal. He said fucking holy war. How we needed to go on a holy war and exterminate the Muslims because they can't be allowed to live. And to see that guy at the fucking church, and then to on my mother's behalf, she hey, can you read off this thing to me because you're good at reading. I need someone to read it. This whole speech, give part of the sermon on her behalf. I didn't fucking write it. I don't write sermons about how Jesus believed forgive them and mercy and kindness, and to see these fucking people to go to that church service and then just see them go back and talk about, well, we need to exterminate the Palestinians for the glory of the white race. It's just a fucking joke. They don't believe any of that shit. They like the sermons about how Jesus was nice and liked forgiving people, not because they actually have any desire to be pacifist or to be kind, but because that means that they're better because they go to the church dedicated to the guy who was the pacifist, even though they aren't pacifists. And that makes them better. And also, the people who don't go should be exterminated because they aren't as good as us. Because our God was the nice guy, even though we do not do any of this fucking teachings. I think the most potent aspect of Christianity is that it creates a built-in in-group and an out-group. And honestly, I say that they aren't being accurate Christianity. Well, kinda. They kinda are, because intrinsic within Christianity is this idea that non-Christians go to hell. Worship Jesus, you go to heaven. Don't worship Jesus, you go to hell. So, just within this fucking religion, even as the religion says to love thy neighbor and turn the other cheek and forgive them, is also, if you aren't part of the in-group, the most horrific, violent, like violence so horrific it cannot even be described is justified against you if you are not part of the in-group. So I shouldn't be surprised when people of that religion think actually violence against people who are not part of the in-group is justifiable, and violence committed by people who are part of the in-group is always acceptable. Yeah, of fucking course they're gonna believe that. They're fucking Christians. It should have been harder on Grassley. I would have lost my fuck. I don't. Well, that's the thing. If I lose my job, then what does that fucking accomplish? What does calling him a fascist cunt? What does screaming in his face accomplish? I'm jobless now, never work again, and he continues voting to murder children. And I wish that excuse felt right to me. Aaron Bushnell, that U.S. soldier who burned himself to death in an act of protest, he asked, and this word has struck with me, what would you have done during the Holocaust? And evidently, what I have to be honest and say is nothing. Maybe donate 50 fucking bucks, maybe make some fucking Tumblr posts, rant on my blog, but ultimately nothing substantial, nothing that's gonna change anything. Just give softball questions, let the fucking genocidal, white supremacist, homophobic, evil old piece of shit say what he wants to say, because journalists who question those in power lose their job. People who stand for truth, and I mean, at least if I'm, no, I don't want to fucking justify it, but at least if I have my job, I can say, hey, there's been 30,000 casualties, there's 100% famine looming, the UN has ordered a ceasefire, and Israel is ignoring international law. At least I can say that. At least maybe. I mean, what the fuck does swaying the minds of Americans even matter? Majority of the country opposes these military actions already, and that hasn't fucking changed anything. There's nothing I can do that will not result in me going to jail, and I am scared of violence, which is the ultimate purpose of the police. Not to stop crime, not to keep people safe, but to ensure those who are allowed to be evil are allowed to continue being evil, and those who try and stop them are killed. Oh Jesus, that was a Oh, one more thing. Actually, no. I was going to move on to talking about something more lighthearted, like child molestation. But no. One more thing is that Chuck Grassley is. I wish he was hateful. I wish that he had talked about the murder of children with a smile on his face. That he was raving with anger and hate. But of course, he fucking wasn't. He's been in politics for 70 goddamn years. He was calm and friendly and respectable and tried to and made what at least come across as reasonable, thought out arguments. He doesn't oppose the murder of children, and that's a fucking or he opposes the murder of fucking children even as he slaughters them. Like of course he's fucking respectable. Of course he acts polite because he wouldn't be in politics if he wasn't. Like he's from the old guard before they said what they actually believe before Donald Trump and just going on openly white supremacist rants. Still fucking racist, but yeah, they'll be polite so that the people who go to church can plausible deniability and pretend that they don't support genocide, even though they deep down are truly know they do and like the fact that they support genocide. So anyway, we're fighting Chuck today. Actually, I should have switched Firo out front. It's fine. I'll use Firo for the Polyrath. I like Chuck as a gym leader because he has a clear cut strategy in that he uses double team and focus punch and then hypnosis and focus punch. It's cool. He sucks so much. His team is barely usable. Actually, Aerial Ace is better because they're double teaming and this one is more bulky. And comments. Well, first off, I can't name after Gabriel. I have a few consistent commenters who I like responding to, but I mean, I've already named Pokemon after you, Gabriel. What acts do I like? Yeah, Act 5-2 is the best. Everyone knows that. What do I like besides that? I like Nobles. I like Fix This. I like the Rapture. I've made all this clear. Okay, this Poliwrath is actually kind of tough. But newsflash, Chuck, you can heal. Guess what I can do? I can heal. I just did the berry side quest where you heal the milk tank. So now I have Moo Moo Milk. Yay! And I posted that I was halfway done with the video, and then someone commented on that, which is why I named that Corsola after. Wait, 10 acts? No, don't be ridiculous. It is... What I am doing is 7 acts, and half of the story is Act 6. Like, what about this is confusing? I actually do think that's part of the... Like, I've ranted how people are like, oh, I hate Act 6. That's half the comic. That's a bunch of different, bunch of chapters that are stylistically very different, have different content. Like, well, yeah, but they think of Act 6 as one thing because it's called Act 6. The Homestuck numbering system is done. My video essay on Homestuck is going good. I just today, like one of my consistent commenters is Senator Lemon Snout, who I think my Ghastly was named after, and just realized, wait a minute, that's a Homestuck reference. That's one of Terezi's dolls. And I was going to try and do Jasmine today, but I guess I'm going to start next time by doing Jasmine. And the other thing is, I wasn't lying when I said I was going to talk about a more lighthearted topic, child molestation. Don't go in there. I don't really have time to get fully into it because this is the end of it, but actually I'll do Yusin's event. I watched Quentin review. He finally finished his mini-series, The iCarly Project, although it'll probably have an epilogue in a few years, by a video called We Don't Talk About Dan Snyder. And a lot of people give Quinn review shit for having drawn out videos that are just go on these obnoxious tangents that should have been far, far shorter than they are. And all of that is true, but this last video is concise, it is to the point. It's still a long video, but it's talking about a lot of stuff. It is one of the best, is probably the best video he's ever made. It is excellent, and it has a point. It like has a very good point at it where he does this whole video on how Dan Schneider is a fucking monster, how he was horribly abusive to allegedly horribly abusive to all the children who worked on his shows, and then says, actually, Dan Schneider isn't the real monster. Uh, Children's television is filled to the brim with these people, and he's not even the worst. Like, for instance, Brian Peck, the child molester who raped Drake Bell. Like, children's, like, the whole point of Quinn Review's video is that Dan Schneider was able to be so horrible for so long because there are structural problems in how children's television is run that allow abusers like him to get away with it for years. And the people try and be like, yay, we got Dan Schneider, we got the one bad person, and now it's good, and we don't have to think about the abuse anymore. And that's BS. There's so much abuse. Oh, fuck. This is a tough battle. I forgot that I never solved my team's can't deal with electricity problem. But okay, this is good because Thunder has bad accuracy, so I can heal up. Unless you go for Thunder now that I'm in range. No, Rustfaller! I didn't even get a chance to use it. Not really. Add it to the thing. No, you're still labeled Flaffy. That'll fix. Oh, how many thunders have I gone? Oh no, my starter, Mike Love, I've had from the beginning. Oh, this is terrible. Don't get a crit. Brick. Okay, I mishandled that. I need an electrical resistance right fucking now. And part of the reason is I was talking and I wasn't focusing. So this presents a problem. Okay. Well, off screen, I'm gonna have to shut the fuck up. Stop calling me mom. Off screen, I need to figure out how to fix my team, and that's gonna. There's this XKCD strip, where the joke is, oh, I gotta eliminate you. Where it's like, it points out that proximity to bad events affects how much they affect you. Like, I think it was XKCD, might have been Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal, where Cue Ball is like, well, there's a genocide going on, or a war going on, or some shit like that, but I have some Chinese in the fridge. So overall, today's pretty good, and that's so fucking bullshit, but it's true. That I probably show more emotion in losing some fucking Pokemon in my stupid fucking Nuzlocke. I did. Yeah, I don't fucking know. I'm gonna end this.